I still remember the exact moment I found out. It was a regular afternoon, nothing special about it, until I saw the message on my phone. It wasn't dramatic. No long explanation. No second thoughts. Just a few words that shattered my entire world. I've made my choice. It's him. At first, I laughed. Out of pure disbelief. She had to be joking. Him? A 62-year-old man? Over me? I stared at the screen, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I read the message again. And again. Maybe I was misunderstanding something. I called her. No answer. I texted. No reply. The pit in my stomach grew heavier with every passing second. She wasn't joking. The woman I loved, the woman I had imagined a future with, had left me, for a man twice my age. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was humiliation. It was betrayal. The first thing that came to mind was money. That had to be it, right? Maybe he was some rich guy with connections. Maybe he offered her a luxurious life, something I couldn't give her. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. She never cared about money. So then, why? What did he have that I didn't? I wasn't just angry, I was obsessed. I needed answers. I needed to understand. My pride was screaming for revenge. My ego demanded an explanation. I had to know what made him better than me. And as I would soon find out, I wasn't ready for the truth. I told myself I wouldn't think about it. I told myself I'd move on. But that was a lie. Days passed, then weeks, and I still couldn't stop replaying it in my head. The message. The silence. The way she had just chosen him. I wasn't just hurt. I was angry. How could she do this to me? I had given her everything. My time, my energy, my love. And she threw it all away for someone twice her age. It didn't make sense. My friends tried to help. They said all the usual things. Forget about her, man. She's not worth it. She'll regret it. Just wait. She's probably after his money. That last one kept me going for a while. Yeah, that had to be it. There was no other explanation. Maybe this guy was some millionaire, flashing his wealth and promising her security. But then I did something I shouldn't have. I looked him up. And what I found made my stomach drop. He wasn't rich. In fact, he was just a regular guy. He wasn't famous, he wasn't some high-powered executive. No flashy cars, no luxury vacations. Just an ordinary 62-year-old man living a simple life. That only made things worse. What did he have that I didn't? The frustration built inside me like a storm. I became obsessed with finding out the answer. I needed to know why she picked him over me. So I started digging. I asked people about him. Friends, acquaintances, even strangers. And the more I heard, the more confused I became. No one spoke badly of him. Not one person. Ah, he's a great guy. One of the most respected people I know. He's got a way of making you feel like the most important person in the room. I'd trust him with my life. That last one hit hard. Because no one had ever said that about me. But I refused to believe it. There had to be something else. A secret. A hidden flaw. A mistake that would prove he didn't deserve her. So I decided to see for myself. I had no idea what I was about to uncover. And I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't going to let this go. I had to see him. I had to know. So one evening, I drove across town to the small cafe where I knew he usually spent his evenings. I sat in the corner, pretending to scroll through my phone, but my eyes were locked on him. There he was. The man who took her from me. He was exactly what I expected: gray hair, wrinkles, a calm, slow way of moving. Just an old man. But then I started noticing things I hadn't expected. The way the barista greeted him, not with the forced politeness of customer service, but with genuine warmth. The way people, strangers, even, stopped by his table just to say hello, shake his hand, exchange a few words. The way he listened, not waiting for his turn to speak, not trying to impress anyone. He was just there. Present. And then, the moment that changed everything. A man, maybe in his 40s, walked in. He looked broken. Like the world had beaten him down. He sat across from the older man, and I could barely hear what was said. But I saw it in his eyes. Whatever this man had been carrying, whatever weight had been crushing him, he let it go in that moment. I watched as the older man leaned in, spoke softly, and somehow, without even trying, made everything okay. And that's when it hit me. I had never done that. Not for her. Not for anyone. I had always been too caught up in my own importance. My own success. I had spent so much time trying to prove I was worthy of love that I had never actually given it freely. And she had seen it. She had seen the difference. And she had chosen the man who understood people in a way I never had. I felt sick. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about age. This was about character. And for the first time in my life, I had to face the truth. I had lost her not because of him, but because of me. I sat there, staring at him, my chest tight, my throat dry. For weeks, I had convinced myself that this was about money, stability, anything but me. But now, watching him, I couldn't escape the truth. This man had something I didn't. And it wasn't about age. It was about who he was. He didn't have to prove himself. He didn't have to be loud or charming or impressive. People were drawn to him because he gave them something real. Something I had never learned to give. I thought back to my relationship with her, all the times I had made it about me. When she was stressed, I had told her to stop overreacting. When she was sad, I had offered solutions instead of just listening. When she tried to open up about her fears, I had dismissed them, told her everything would be fine, because I didn't want to deal with difficult conversations. But this man. He saw people. Really saw them. And that's when I realized, she had never just left me. She had outgrown me. The thought made my stomach twist. Had I ever really been what she needed? Or had I just assumed I was? I felt a rush of anger again, not at him, not even at her, but at myself. For thinking I had it all figured out. For assuming love was just about showing up and being there. For never once stopping to ask myself if I was truly worthy of her trust. I watched as the man placed a reassuring hand on the shoulder of the guy sitting across from him. The younger man, who had come in looking completely defeated, now looked lighter. Like he had just been heard for the first time in a long time. And that's when I knew. This wasn't about me versus him. It was about who I was willing to become. I had a choice. Stay bitter and blame the world, or grow. For the first time in weeks, the anger inside me started to fade. And in its place? A question I had never dared to ask myself before. What if losing her was the best thing that ever happened to me? I drove home in silence that night. No music, no distractions. Just me and the uncomfortable truth sitting in the passenger seat. I had spent so much time blaming her for leaving me. Blaming him for taking her. But now I knew the truth, I had been the one who pushed her away. Not by cheating. Not by treating her badly. But by never really seeing her. By never making her feel safe enough to be herself. I sat in my apartment, staring at my reflection in the dark window. The man looking back at me wasn't someone I was proud of. For the first time, I admitted it to myself. I had been selfish. Not in the obvious way. I had never yelled at her. I had never ignored her messages or made her feel unwanted. But I had always made our relationship about me. About what I wanted. About what I needed. I thought back to all the times she had hinted at her feelings. How she had wanted to talk, and I had given her half answers. How she had needed reassurance, and I had brushed it off. How she had wanted me to be her safe place, and I had made her feel like she was too much. I swallowed hard. No wonder she had chosen him. I had given her love with conditions. He had given her love with understanding. I took a deep breath. I had a choice now. I could stay here, bitter, blaming her, blaming him. Or I could change. Not for her. Not to win her back. But because I didn't want to be this version of myself anymore. For the first time in weeks, I felt something shift inside me. A realization. She hadn't left me for someone else. She had left me for herself. And I had a decision to make. Would I let this be the end of my story? Or the beginning of something better? Change doesn't happen overnight. It's not a switch you flip. It's not a decision you make once and then suddenly become a better person. It's waking up every day and choosing to be different. And that's what I started doing. At first, I didn't even know where to begin. How do you fix something in yourself when you never even realized it was broken? So I started small. I stopped talking over people in conversations. Instead, I listened. I stopped thinking about what I was going to say next while someone else was speaking. Instead, I tried to hear them. I stopped assuming that my presence was enough in people's lives. Instead, I started asking, how can I show up for you? It was hard. I had spent years being a person who thought he had it all figured out. Who thought love was about being wanted, not about being worthy. But the more I changed, the more I saw my past with new eyes. I remembered a night when she had sat across from me, her face tired, her voice small. I just need to know you're really here, she had said. And I had laughed. Of course I'm here. What are you talking about? But I hadn't been. Not really. I had been physically there but emotionally absent. And now, it was too late. She was with someone who understood what she needed in ways I never had. But instead of feeling bitter, I felt something else. Gratitude. Because if she hadn't left, I never would have seen the truth about myself. I would have continued living, blind to my own flaws, never realizing how much I was taking people for granted. I wouldn't have known what it meant to truly value someone, not just love them, but value them. I wouldn't have known how to listen. How to be present. How to be the kind of man who actually deserves the love he's given. One night, weeks later, I found myself back at that small cafe. I wasn't there to spy on him. I wasn't there for her. I was just there. Watching, listening, learning. I wasn't looking for closure anymore. I was looking for understanding. And for the first time, I realized, I had finally found it. I didn't expect to see her that night. But as I sat there in the cafe, quietly observing the world in a way I never had before, I heard a familiar voice behind me. I turned, and there she was. She looked the same, yet different. Maybe it was the way she held herself, lighter, freer, more at peace. Or maybe it was just that for the first time, I was actually seeing her instead of just looking at her. We locked eyes for a moment, and I saw something I hadn't seen in weeks, recognition, not regret. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look sorry. She looked like someone who had made the right choice. And for the first time, I didn't feel the sting of betrayal. Because I understood now. She had never chosen him over me. She had chosen herself. And I couldn't blame her for that. She walked toward me, hesitating slightly before sitting down across from me. There was no tension. No awkwardness. Just understanding. "How have you been?" she asked softly. A few weeks ago, I would have lied. Told her I was fine. Acted like nothing had happened, as if I didn't care. But I wasn't that person anymore. "I've been learning," I said honestly. Her lips curled into a small smile. "Me too." There was no point in asking if she was happy. I could see it in her eyes. And strangely, for the first time, I was happy for her. I had spent so much time thinking she had taken something from me. That she had stolen my future and given it to someone else. But the truth was, she had given me a future too. A better one. Because without losing her, I never would have found myself. We talked for a little while, nothing deep, nothing dramatic. Just two people who had shared something real, closing the chapter the way it was always meant to be closed. Eventually, she stood up to leave. For a moment, I almost told her I had changed. Almost told her I finally understood. Almost asked her if she had ever thought about coming back. But I didn't. Because this wasn't about winning her back anymore. This was about becoming someone better. She smiled one last time before turning toward the door. And just like that, she was gone. But for the first time, I wasn't holding on to what could have been. I was looking forward to what could be. Because sometimes, the hardest lesson in life is realizing that losing someone isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new one. And I was finally ready to write mine.